to order, and starting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the invocation, I want to take liberties myself today for the invocation. Lord Heavenly Father, as we come today, O Lord, we just ask you that you give us a straight mind, Lord, so we may do the best in decision making. It will be the best for the population here of Union County. Oh Lord, we just ask you also, Lord, that our work not be in vain, O Lord, and that the powers who have appointed us to do this work, O Lord, that they will hear us, and also the staff, O Lord, that we will not be just meeting to be meeting, that we'll be doing the right thing for the citizens of Union County, O Lord. This is our prayer, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen. I don't know if everyone should have had a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting. There was a lot of stuff going on last meeting, so it was a quite lengthy minutes. I just had one thing myself, and I'll ask if any others had anything about the minutes. The minutes I had on my comment, I wanted to be, take note, was that I asked Ashley about the Medicaid expansion. And on the Medicaid expansion, I was concerned about maybe not so many people knowing about it. Ashley had replied back then was that some type of state waiver was given because we had so many applications that were coming in, but the minutes does not reflect that. It just says that the applications are still coming in. So I wanted to make note that there was some type of waiver that Ashley had talked about, and that we were had so many applications coming in, so the state had given us some type of waiver. And I think that was on page, what page it was on, but it was when we asked the questions about for the division directors reports. I think it was on page 17.
Yes. We can make that adjustment.
Okay. Did anybody else have any questions about the minutes? Besides that, they look fine to me, and if there are no other questions, I'd make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with that one note, exception for about the Medicaid expansion.
I second.
Amy has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, well, I guess it is approved. So what's the next order of business here? Executive Director's Report.
Approval of the agenda
Oh,
first.
yes,
and
that's
then
right,
the
that's
old
right.
business.
Okay, right, thank you, Janet. So the agenda, I would motion that the agenda be accepted. Okay, so we got a second by Brandy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, now for Ms. Janet and the Executive Director's Report.
I think if you go to page 2, Earl, we'll do the old business first before the Executive Director's Report, or I would be happy to go with the Executive Director's Report if you would prefer that.
We can go to the old news first. The old business. Okay. Yeah, so the old news was last time, I think we were kind of puzzled on this and about the letter that we were going to send to the County Board of Commissioners on this old news. And so as you all know by now, that we had two members of this board resign, one being Dr. Smith and one being Dr. McMahon. So our request at that time was to try to send something to the Board of Commissioners about the vote that they were going to have about the fluoridation in the water. So at this point, I'm not sure how much, it looks like, I'm not sure how much we can, this resolution, we're gonna have a letter, but we've been kind of out of sync as far as I'm thinking, as far as on this resolution. Do any of my other members have anything about this resolution that we're gonna write?
Can I just make a comment about last month regarding this? So I wasn't here that night for this, I was at my other job, but I had a chance to go back and watch the video and follow up with some of these resignations, and I just want to reiterate, and I probably don't have to say that what we do as a collaborative effort is very, very important to the community, to each other. We all bring a unique perspective, and with that said, the county commissioners as well. I just want to make a comment that got said in one of the emails about not being important or not being taken serious, that we advise the county commissioners as a board. We don't make decisions. We are appointed. We are not elected by the Union County residents. We advise the county commissioners, and it's not always going to be a win situation for us, whether we agree or disagree with the fluoride comment, but it's not always going to be agreeable. But I would hope that at the end of the day, I hate for anybody that walked away from here feeling not important or not heard, because I think we have a great collaboration with the Board of County Commissioners. Like I said, if there's something that we disagree on, there's always room for talk, there's always room for improvement, but I never want any of us to walk away feeling that we are not important to this board. We all bring uniqueness to it, and again, we advise. We are at the service of the Board of County Commissioners, so I just want to say that for the record, and everybody hopefully feels important.
My issue with my issue with the discussion that we had last week was not whether or not fluoridation was banned in Union County or not. That was a discussion, and a decision was made. The part that I was disappointed with was that this board was not involved in the discussion at the beginning. We weren't informed that the county commissioners were going to have a vote on this until after it took place. So there was no way for us to give our input. And if, according to the paper that we were given, one of the reasons that we're appointed is to advise local officials through the county manager, and they're circumventing that by not telling us of issues that are coming before them, then why are we here?
I think it was important. Is that okay? What you said with regard to, I hate that they felt that way, but I understand how they felt. And I think that the letter was one thing that we discussed, but that really was about the fluoridation. You know, and the other option that I remember us discussing was to have a discussion on the possibility of a letter of resolution, you know, like a way to prevent it going forward. We can't go backwards, right? But with the, to try as a group who aims to be an advisor to them and to support them and assist them, you know, what could we put in place, or what could we request that ensured that next time if something is being considered that has to do with public health, that we are actually consulted first. That does not mean that as their elected officials, they will have a right to move forward with what they think is best. I think it was the timing of when it started versus our January meeting and when we found out about it. And so I think the discussion is not about what has happened, but what could we prevent going forward, so that we were part of that discussion.
Yes, and I agree with Amy and Margaret, and also Brandy too. I just think it was just the timing. And during the last meeting, I had mentioned that if we had, our commissioner represented Mr. Williams, that going forward, when these things come up, we can at least bounce things off of him so he can at least know how this board feels about a situation like that, that really would be impactful to the whole community. And you're right, that decision has been made, so there's nothing we can do about that decision, but hopefully with staff and with our representative, Mr. Williams, that we'll be able to have some input that will at least considered by the board before something like that possibly goes through or happens again, possibly.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, first let me just start off by saying that I appreciate the volunteer service of all of you in this room and outside of the room who are members of this board. You do an amazing job and a worthy and noble service for the county. I appreciate that. And your service isn't just limited to this board, it's in this community on many other boards in informal and formal capacities. And you represent a diversity of experience and education and skill sets that this commissioner appreciates greatly. So let me just start by saying that because I am so thankful that we have citizens like yourselves who are so engaged and who are so well equipped to help the county government do the necessary work. So just thank you. Thank you, and please know that I recognize your service and I appreciate it greatly. There are a number of roles defined by statute and in the administrative code, for this Consolidated Human Services Board, and I embrace all of those. And there have been so many issues, just in my, not quite full term on the Board of County Commissioners that I've observed that has impressed me to no end, and it ranges it extends across the spectrum. I mean, from dangerous dogs to community health assessments to mental health to behavioral health collaborative to communicable disease. I mean, the subject matter that our volunteers embrace on behalf of the county is impressive. And again, I recognize that and appreciate it greatly. I will say, though, there are some things that statute and the administrative code don't require or don't oblige the county commissioners to come to the Consolidated Human Services Board and get your recommendation or your consultation. This is one of them, just straight up. And that is not a slight, that's no disrespect. It's just that the Board of County Commissioners is not obliged on this issue to solicit your recommendation. We're just not. And I can tell you, in terms of notice for this issue, there was a lot of notice. Just going back over, prior Board of County Commissioner meeting agendas, I can count at least 4 meeting notices where this issue came up. It was covered in print media, it was covered in television media, it was covered, from county government. It was, I think it was even on radio. And when the ordinance itself was actually under consideration and finally adopted, that took place not in 1 regular meeting, but in 2, which was noticed. Now, if there's some fault here in terms of, lack of notice about this issue and members here wishing they'd had more of an opportunity to chat with commissioners, chat with myself, please place that burden not on the rest of the board, but on me. I mean, I wasn't here at the last meeting. I am on so many boards and committees, it's not funny, that's not an excuse, but I wasn't here. I have talked to members and past members in this, on this board and from the prior board about this issue. But if you didn't feel like you had an adequate opportunity to engage with me on this issue, please place that burden or that blame on me. You know, that's on me. I will hang around after this meeting to talk as long as anyone wishes to on this issue. I strike the chord that has been struck, I think, already a number of times tonight, which is there are going to be things upon which, you know, good people disagree. You know, this is clearly one of them. It's an issue that excites a lot of, you know, passionate and robust, you know, discussion and debate. That's okay. You know, God bless America. And again, to the extent that some folks here feel like, you know, commissioners, and this commissioner in particular, wasn't adequately available, I'm here to talk with you about it because I appreciate each and every one of you. I truly do. Your skill sets, your passion to serve, your knowledge, your just impulse for public service generally. I'm so thankful that we have in the county. So that's kind of, you know, what I want to say about it. I mean, you know, if you want to send a letter still, by all means do. We've got another commissioner on the board here, Brian Helms, who's indicated to me he's happy to chat with you all as well. So that's 2 out of 4 of us here tonight. I hope that impresses some, at least, the importance all of you and this board generally has on us. We appreciate your work and appreciate you greatly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. And since we do have Commissioner Helms here, I wanted to ask him if he would like to say anything, and if he would like to.
Thank you, sir. And board members, I'll just reiterate what Commissioner Williams said. The service that you provide to the county is invaluable, and we certainly appreciate the hours that each and every one of you put into this. You know, ultimately, there's going to be things where, you know, again, there's going to be strong opinions on one side or the other, but we have a group of good folks here, and I'm convinced that we can all do good work together. So I will be around after the meeting. I'll be free to talk with each and every one of you, or anybody that wants to discuss, you know, what's happened here recently with the Board of Commissioners. I'll be available as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Helms. Is there anyone else?
I just have a question for Commissioner Williams. Like you said, I understand that you're not obligated to come to this board, but we are here and we're a resource. And so I don't know why, again, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I abstained from the last vote because I feel like I had enough information on it to vote one way or the other. But going forward, like if you have a resource, and this is a board of medical professionals, dentists, doctors, veterinarians, why wouldn't you ask for our opinion? Just out of curiosity, why wouldn't you use that resource?
Well, speaking for myself, I think in this case, I can tell you in my 3.5 years on the board, I have not seen more interest on any issue than on this one. I mean, the response from citizens, the response from dentists, from doctors, from nurses, from PhDs, from researchers was, at least to this commissioner, overwhelming. And when we started this process, and we started it as Commissioner Brian Helms can attest, late last year, you know, and our direction to in public meeting, in a notice public meeting, was to county staff, senior county staff, to go out and find folks on both sides of this issue, you know, so that we could get a presentation on water fluoridation at some meeting early in the year. And then that's when the first January meeting started, and then the 2 subsequent meetings. But our direction to staff, and the short answer is, our direction to staff was to go out and engage on both sides of this issue professionals who can speak to it. Now, is more better? Perhaps, you know, in hindsight, could there have been, you know, more consultation with medical professionals and dental professionals and citizens on this board? Yeah, there could have been, and you know, perhaps there should have been more of that. But I can tell you, I felt satisfied, I felt confident in the direction that we gave to county staff and in the response, back to us. And I feel like they did a deliberate and a fair and even-handed delivery of a presentation of information on both sides. So that would be my short answer.
I think it's just one of those things that's, I think for Dr. McMahon especially, it was like, what is the point of us being here? Like, if you're not going to use us for the knowledge that we have, then why are we here? Like, I sit here, every month and I learn about the county and the programs that we offer, but as far as giving input, there's very few times that we actually do that. And I think for her, she was upset that she was a dentist and she didn't have the opportunity to give any input. So I guess going forward, just remember that we're here, and let us know that we do have, at least, you don't have to listen to us or take our advice, but I do think because we are here, our input should be asked for and valued.
Didn't she speak at the meeting?
She did. I think
I
she
thought
was
so.
even there
Okay.
twice. I
Okay,
think she
I
was
thought so.
there the night that the ordinance, the proposed ordinance was first presented, and then the second iteration of that. I noticed. I want to note this summary that we got here in terms of statutory citations and also the information on the back. My direct phone number, let me just make sure everybody has that, is 704-698-8867. Like I said, I know I've talked with a number of folks inside and outside this room who are on this board about this issue, and I want to encourage everybody to reach out to me and chat on a whole range of issues. I try to be fairly available, and believe me, I am. I feel keenly, the importance of my availability to the members who serve in this room. So, don't be shy. Don't be shy about reaching out.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Williams. So, the question I guess I want to ask for the board members that are here, you heard from Commissioner Williams, and you also heard from Commissioner Helms somewhat, and this idea is this resolution, given what we've heard, does anybody have a motion about this resolution, or where do we go from here about the resolution? Or does it make sense to even have a resolution as far as going to, from this board, asking the commissioners, because this resolution we're going to put forward, and this writing here is like we were going to encourage the Board of County Commissioners to seek us first, but you heard from Commissioner Williams also, and he's a representative, so I guess the question I'm asking, does it make sense to even write a resolution asking the commissioners about seeking this board for opinion first? Any thoughts on that from the board members?
I have a comment. It seems like a lot of the issue was with the timing, that the board was told about it after things were already in motion and not before. We haven't seen you at meetings in months, so we don't get an update from you, which we had been doing every month in here. And I understand you have obligations, but is it possible for you to send a report here saying these are the things that are coming before the county commissioners that are related to public health?
Well, I wasn't at the February meeting, I wasn't at the January meeting. I will, do everything in my power to make sure I attend these Monday night meetings. I mean, it's not an excuse the other obligations I have, but I can assure you I'm going to be even more focused on attending these. I think, I think I want folks to feel like I'm available. I'm available in person and over the phone. to meet inside and outside these rooms, whether it's a meeting night or not a meeting night. That is the posture I've tried to establish as a commissioner from the word go. And I think more times than not, I've succeeded in doing that. So I don't think, we need to have a formal reporting, to or from the commissioner representative between me and the board. Let's just resolve to engage each other in conversation a lot more. How about that?
Can I just say one more thing? I just want to say from myself that you might have not reached out to me as a resource, and that's okay. I'm just thankful that you reached out to other medical professionals that have expertise on the subject. So thank you for at least getting both sides of the aisle for that.
If I can say something else. So just to address the question about formal reporting, I want to make it clear that, understand that what we did as a board is all a matter of public record. So the agendas, they're all published. All this information is out there at the government website. And I understand that some of you feel as though you weren't in the know of this entire process. And for that, I sincerely apologize that you weren't aware of what the board was entertaining. Communication is key, okay? And I fully understand that, but I want to make it clear that everything that we do, it doesn't happen in the shadow of night. This whole process regarding fluoride is probably one of the most transparent things I've seen this board do, period. And that's something that we hang our hat on, was transparency. So to Commissioner Williams' point, we had multiple meetings on this. We included a public hearing. We had medical professionals from all over this state, and even I think a couple that were out of state, attend these meetings to provide input, one way or the other. So, understand that everything that we do, whether it's, medical issues that may come up, or, zonings, or, the matter of business for the county, it is all transparent, and it's all available to you on the government website.
Thank you, Commissioner Helms. Any more comment? I'm going to ask that at this point, I think we need to digest. I'm not asking for any motions, not unless another board member wants to make a motion on a resolution. I think we just need to digest that. I don't see, or table that. I don't see at this point, from my opinion, I don't see where we need to, or how much effective it would be even doing any type of resolution from this board. That's my opinion, but it's open for any other board members. If you have anything to say about this.
Not at this time.
Okay, so we're just going to table that. I think that we don't need to take any type of resolution or anything at this point. So now I'd like to move on to the Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Earl. So this evening, we have two items. One, Earl, that we will tag team on, but before that, the first item is the Consolidated Human Services Board applications. There are 3 applications for your consideration. One of those is Mrs. Monica King, who actually submitted her application for consideration, and this was originally presented to you all at the February board meeting, and that is to fill the vacant other person position. Instead of including this in old business, since we had 2 new ones, we decided to just combine them all together. All of these items are on the full applications. If you flip to page 20, actually really 21 begins the new applications. So the first candidate is Monica King for other person. The second candidate is Heather Rand, who is applying for the vacant registered nurse position. And the third candidate is Wendy Sellers, who is applying for the social worker position. And at this point, if you guys haven't yet had a chance, if you would like to take a minute and look at those, and then what we would ask you to do is just to consider making a recommendation to the board for appointment of one or multiple of these candidates, so you can take them one by one in terms of a vote if you would like. And then if you choose to recommend that they move forward to the Board of County Commissioners, we would obviously take that as an agenda item for them, and then they would vote whether or not to appoint, to make an official appointment for these.
Can I ask a question
Please
about
do.
that? Because obviously following up from last month's meeting, I know there was concern about an applicant being involved in a lawsuit against the State Department of Health and Human Services Board. Did we proceed or get any kind of information on that,
We
or?
did get clarification that that is not a direct conflict of interest, in terms of, excuse me, not something that would require us to go into closed session, and not a conflict of interest that would preclude this candidate from being considered, because that lawsuit is from one organization to the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, a completely separate organization from the county, and doesn't impact county business. If there were, if the candidate were selected and there were to be a vote on something that is directly applicable to that, which would be highly unlikely, I believe, but if that were to occur, then obviously they should remove themselves from that vote. And the other thing, just as a follow-up to last month's discussion, I will point out that per General Statute 143, 118.11, Section A, subsection 6, a public body may not consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, appointment, or removal of a member of the public body or another body, and may not consider or fill a vacancy among its own membership except for an open meeting. And so a closed session is not appropriate from a conversation perspective about the applicants. If there are questions about the applicants, there are two other options for the future that may happen. One is you all may individually, obviously, call any of these candidates and talk with them. Another is that you could request that they come to one of these meetings and you could ask questions of them in a meeting. And then, as we have had in the past, we have had subgroups be appointed by this board to, I'll say, interview, for lack of a better descriptor. However, those are also open public meetings. So if there was a group that, a subgroup from this group that would be appointed for that, it would be the same as having a conversation in an open meeting during this forum.
Okay, just so I'm clear and I know, so even though the organization has a lawsuit pending against the state and they are a member of the organization, there's no conflict of interest?
Per our legal advice, that is a correct statement.
Okay.
I wouldn't think that would be a conflict unless something did come up and they, like you said, I think it would be recused. I mean, when we look at the other things on the application, I think it's a very solid applicant.
We don't know the applicants, so that I don't want to speak for them, and that's why I'm asking, because
I know the applicant,
there could be.
just for full disclosure.
Okay, I don't, and this is, so that's why I'm asking, because we never do know, especially when there's a lawsuit pending against our own department of youth.
Absolutely.
I don't want intentions, coming in either, so that's why I'm trying to get clarification.
And I think if you, Amy, have information that you would like to share with the group, obviously this is for you all to discuss amongst yourselves about the candidates, and if you need additional time, again, to talk with any of these candidates directly, y'all are welcome to take that as well.
She worked for the county, for Mecklenburg County, which this was about Monica King. She was the applicant from last month. So she worked for Mecklenburg County for over 15 years before going to work for Alliance, which is where I met her. She had the same position that I have when she was working for Alliance, and that was to be a family partner coordinator. and to support families in the community, provide trainings and access to them, to elevate their voice within the system and getting the services that they needed, and to rely on their lived experience in that. She continued her education from there, and she's now working as an adjunct professor at Wingate, where she's actually training in family, I can't remember what it's called, family leadership or family science. So she she has young kids, and she's been a resident of our community 13 plus years. She's married, she adopted him. I mean, I actually think that she actually fits more than one of our categories, because she actually would fit the consumer category as well as the other.
Any more comments? If there are no other comments, I know I've read all these last night, their bios. They all seem to be professional to me. And we are needing board members. And if anybody doesn't have a comment before, I'm gonna make a go ahead, Mark.
I had one comment on one of the applications. The Wendy Sellers is only 1 year in Union County, and I thought that was pretty slim. I didn't know how anybody else felt about that.
Are there any requirements, Janet, I know Amy asked me another requirement too. I'll just ask, maybe Janet knows, but you were asking me earlier, Amy, about, say a person is a resident
Yes.
of the county, but there might not be a citizen?
So.
That is
I
not
do-
one of these.
Not one of these,
do
yes,
actually have
I was just
information
curious about that
as
when
well.
they asked that question.
So, yes, the requirement is that you are a resident of Union County. The length of time for your residency does not impact your ability to apply at all. And the only other requirement is that you are eligible to work in the United States. So you don't have to technically be a citizen, because there are multiple paths that allow one to be eligible to work as an employee.
Resident alien, stuff like
Yes.
that, okay.
I did notice the 1 year on Ms. Sellers. There were other things about her application that I was pretty excited about, though. I do think her applying as a social worker, and then she's going to be leading the social worker program within Wingate is, noteworthy to counter that year. And I also noticed that it said that she was director of Hispanic initiatives. And that is relevant to the question that you asked, because I do not feel that we have adequate representation of that voice. Now, I don't know if Ms. Sellers can bring that voice. I don't know her, but I was just curious about that on her application.
So, board members, is any other concerns about any of these applicants?
Should we vote on them individually? In case there are concerns?
Okay. Well, who's first?
We'll gotta bring them.
Monica? Was Monica King the first one? Monica King was the first applicant. I'm gonna make a motion that I have a motion to accept her application.
Second.
And Margaret's a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed?
I'm gonna oppose, just for the reasons that I gave. I don't know if that matters or anything, but I just kind of have concerns and don't feel comfortable with it, so I'm just gonna oppose this.
It's about the legal,
Yeah, and I don't know her, so, and she's right, there are some other things that are great, but just with that pending, maybe when it's over, another consideration, but.
so we don't have a unanimous on that particular applicant. What are the rules on those, Janet?
Majority.
Majority? Okay. Well, we have a majority says is in favor, so then she carries.
Make a motion for Ms. Rand?
Sure. It's a motion for Ms. Rand. And Ms. Rand is the registered nurse position. And, okay, second. All in favor, say aye. Oppose? So that carries, okay. Ms. Rand's application is approved so far. And then the last one, Dr. Wendy Sellers, the social work position. Do we have a motion for Dr. Sellers?
Motion to approve.
A motion is.
Second.
Wait a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose? Okay, hers is approved too then. Okay.
Thank you very much. We will take these applicants and put them on an upcoming Board of County Commissioners agenda for their consideration. The next item, actually, Earl, is one that we will tag team on, and that is for the Consolidated Human Services Board Vice Chair nomination. With the resignation of David Smith that was received in February, we have a vacancy in that position and in that function. There is not a statutory requirement to elect a vice chair, so having it vacant does not preclude us from meeting. However, and we do have a statutory requirement to have a chairman, and we have in our rules an annual election, but we can accept nominations, either self-nominations or nominations from the group for the vice chair position. And Earl, that would, you would request that, but that is the purpose of this next item.
Yes, I want to nominate Amy as vice chair. She seems very knowledgeable. She's been working in the human services field for a long time. And I want to nominate Amy Dickey for the vice chair. That's my motion.
Can I get clarity of exactly what else that entails, responsibility-wise?
Honestly, as we discussed, I believe it was at the January meeting, but the vice chairman simply steps in to fill in if the chairman is absent. So in terms of in these roles, that is the primary responsibility. So if Earl is not able to be present to lead a meeting, then that would occur. And then also there are several rules in terms of bringing agenda items forth, but that all comes really through Earl to us. So if you guys would like, any one of you can request that an agenda item be brought forth. So again, if Earl was absent, then you would be able to accept that recommendation and make it to us to add it to the agenda. And then as a member along with Brandy for the third person executive committee subgroup, if there was a dangerous dog hearing, you all would be the first three individuals that we would seek to have participate in that dangerous dog hearing if you all as a board are not able to convene within 10 days as required to hold that hearing. So that has happened 5 times since I've been here, I think, roughly.
So it's only the dangerous dog is the scenario that really is
Right.
about for the next.
And that technically is actually going to come to the board first. It just depends on the timing. And if you aren't available, then it is up to the county manager to determine someone else who would be available.
So Margaret has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right. Amy.
Congratulations, Amy.
Amy looks like she wants to oppose.
Okay.
Earl, that is all that I had for that portion, but I do just want to say thank you to both David and Allison for their time serving this board, and thank you again to you all. Your contributions are very valuable. We appreciate you listening and learning and providing feedback when we present to you, because that is helpful to us from an agency staff perspective, in addition to fulfilling
the obligations that we have from a governing board perspective, and appointed board perspective. And so, I want to thank y'all, and also, just want to recognize and thank David and Allison for their service.
And thank you too, Janet. And Janet, appreciate the information you've given me. That it's just like the last couple meetings that I learned that from the documentations that you gave me, that we're more than an advisory board, but some type of administrative type board, which I had not known as long as I've been working here in human services. So I appreciate the information that you have provided to me and to the rest of the board.
My pleasure.
So is that all of your report? So now we're into the, I guess the next person up was Christine, but Christine says that she has to, I think it's Jason, we want to flip-flop because Jason has to go someplace, so we can have Jason's report first, or presentation.
And then we'll come back to the clinical, public health clinical fee, and then to Christina.
Okay.
That's okay. Thank you for adjusting that.
Okay. I appreciate you guys making the accommodation. My younger son actually has a game today, and I hardly get to see him play, so I'm trying to get over to school to watch him. So my name is Jason, or Jay Gurian. I have actually been with the county since 2010. I currently serve as the Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for Human Services, and that's what I'm here to discuss with you guys tonight, is my role here. I've been a firefighter paramedic for an EMT for 27 years and counting. I'm still with Matthews. I'm the longest tenured employee at Matthews Fire Department. I do some other stuff on the side. I came from the 911 center, and actually Jackie came looking for me and asked me to apply for an open vacancy. And honestly, I was looking for a change, and it was the middle of COVID, so I said, why the heck not come over to the health department in the middle of a pandemic? And it's honestly been one of the greatest transitions that I've made. It's doing what I love to do, but in a whole new realm. So I'm really happy for being here. I've got some other stuff up here that I do in my spare time. But originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and for you guys who are lifelong Carolinians, those there are championship banners. You guys may not know what they look like here, but those are what champions look like. But I started my undergraduate work at St. Lawrence University in Canton, New York, where I was a baseball player, and technically forgot to go to class. So instead, I played ball and I started hanging around the fire department up in Canton, New York, which I was instantly hooked. Like, I'd never done anything like that before, was instantly hooked. And in my junior year, St. Lawrence and I had a mutual agreement that I shouldn't go back. And I really didn't know what to do with my time, so I moved to North Carolina. And you know, since then, it's been kind of a whirlwind of things that I've done. So this is my family. All right, this is what I live for. This is why I'm trying to leave today and go to this. I've got 2 boys, and anybody who's got kids that play travel sports or any sports, you know absolutely how expensive it is, which is why I work as many jobs as I do. My wife there, I've been married to her for 22 years. We've been together for 24. Every time I go home and she's still there, I am shocked that she has not gotten smart and left yet. I married way out of my league. So yeah, we're gonna skip that guy right there. All right, so what do I do? In 2002, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention put forth funding through state and local public health for the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Cooperative. And this is to help health departments build and strengthen their abilities to effectively respond to a range of public health threats, including infectious diseases, natural disasters, biological, chemical, nuclear, and radiological events. So the fact that I don't work out there in the real world is actually a good thing, because if I'm out there working in the real world, it means one of these really bad things have happened. So all of this stemmed from a small event that you guys may have heard of, which were the anthrax attacks in 2011. The United States realized that they were completely unprepared for any attack like that of a chemical or biological nature and decided to put this program into action, and we've just been growing this program ever since. Union County is part of the statewide public health preparedness and response organization, but on a micro level, we're part of what's called the CRI region. So the CRI region composes all the counties in North Carolina that touch Charlotte, plus Anson County and Cleveland County. And we have additional requirements that other counties don't. There are 36 of these CRI areas within the United States, North Carolina having really like 2.5. So there's us. The Raleigh-Wake area technically counts as one, and then the very two northeastern parts of the state are part of the Virginia Beach, Norfolk News CRI region. So we're the true, like, the big CRI region, and what that does is it allows us to have full and effective use of what's called the SNS, or the Strategic National Stockpile. So in the event of one of those chemical attacks, the SNS is a large warehouse, there's several of them, but large warehouses full of equipment, supplies, and medication that are shipped out to local health departments to be distributed out to citizens of the county. We'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. So my program required components, or the things that I'm required to cover, is number one, we have a ChemPack program. So the ChemPack program is for nerve agents that may be distributed in a terrorist or biological or even just an accident from a farming community that requires nerve agents to be distributed to large amounts of people within hours. All right, we don't have days to do this, we just have mere hours to do it. So our ChemPack locations, they're super secret. I could tell you, but then we'd have to use that little device and erase your memories. But our ChemPack locations are located in Mecklenburg County, and they contain different types of antidotes, but the two biggest things are going to be atropine and 2-PAM. And as I said, it's our responsibility to plan and execute that program if it were ever be needed. Knock on wood, it's not going to be needed. Quick trivia: Union County, and this, don't take my word for this. I've just been told this numerous times. There's no real way to fact check it. But Union County is the only county in the world that blank. Does anybody know? All right. We're within 50 miles of, well, that should say 8 nuclear reactors, 5 nuclear plants. So Union County is within 50 miles of the 5 plants and the 8 reactors, which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, isn't really that big of a deal. Nuclear power is rather safe, but we do hold that distinction that we are part of that. In doing so, we have to do nuclear drills about every 2 years. We're part of McGuire, and we have a small part in McGuire, a very large part in the Catawba nuclear plant. So Union County Public Health assists emergency management with McGuire in just using personnel. For Catawba, we're responsible for sheltering, decontamination, we assist with animal services, and we run the reception center. And we do this for the people who are located in this zone down here. This is the B2 zone of Fort Mill. So there's roughly about 50,000 people who live down there. It's the largest area of that's covered. And those people are told when they move in there that if anything were to happen, they're to go to Marvin Ridge High School and check in at the reception center. If they choose to stay in a shelter, we can shelter them. If not, we monitor them for radiation, clean them to the best of our ability, and then send them on their way wherever they want to go. So we're part of that program. We're actually coming up with, we have a full-scale drill with FEMA coming up in April, and that is April 16th, I want to say, at Marvin Ridge that night. So they'll grade us, everything from emergency services to the sheriff's office, to public health, to emergency management, all facets of this. They will grade us and report back and tell us how we did. So we've really been working hard to practice and train to make sure that we have all of these steps down pat for this drill. As part of it also, Union County has 6,800 doses of potassium iodide pills. Those 6,800 doses are for the people in Zone B2 and our own first responders. So our first responders who are out, the sheriff's office, EMS, the people who are working at the shelter, get them first if we're asked to take them, and then citizens of this B2 area can get them also if they forgot to bring theirs or don't have any. We're also required to have a very comprehensive medical countermeasures plan. So the medical countermeasures plan is evaluated annually. Every year I've got to send in documentation that we have medical countermeasures plans, and that we exercise them or at least discuss them in tabletop exercises annually. So our plans include a high consequence pathogen plan. We have an Ebola specific plan outside of the high consequence pathogen plan. A pandemic flu plan. We have a plan for an LRS, which is local receiving site. So all that stuff from the federal government that comes to us has to go to a centralized location, be inventoried and distributed out from that central location. We have an all hazards plan. We actually have two. There's one specific for public health, and then we have annexes in the county's emergency operations plan. We have a communications plan. We actually have two of those also. There's the county's plan, and then the CDC, in their infinite wisdom, has required that we have our own. So we've basically taken Liz and Nicole's communications plan and slapped public health name in there several times. And then a respiratory protection plan for first responders. Every 5 years, we're required to exercise a medical countermeasures plan with a full-scale exercise. Our last full-scale exercise we did just after COVID. We used it as a real-world exercise for the 2 mass vaccination clinics that we put on over at the Agricultural Center. So that sufficed our 5-year plan for that. In order to get ahead of certain things in my personal life, like my son graduating high school next year or the year after next, we are actually exercising our next 5-year plan this year. And we have decided, and I don't want to give too much on the off chance that somebody actually watches this on YouTube, but this is going to be one of the largest exercises that this area has ever put on, and we're doing it in conjunction with environmental health, public health, emergency management. The whole gamut of people will be involved in this. It's basically a day-long, Ag Center will be involved. It's a day-long exercise that we're going to be putting on later on this year. Jurisdictional data sheets, we're responsible for knowing the population of Union County. So I have to know the population of Union County, the different things that, the different people and population centers that it makes up, and be prepared to dispense medications to these people in the event of an anthrax attack or a radiological event or something else. So we submit these jurisdictional data sheets to the state medical countermeasures team on an annual basis also, and we're obviously graded on that. Staff notification drills, I know all the staff love these when they come out because they usually happen on a Saturday or a Sunday or a holiday. We try to make them as lighthearted as possible, but we are graded on sending out information via Everbridge, which is our mass communication plan at this time. We send information out, and we're graded on how many employees actually respond back to that message. So we have to do that 4 times a year, and reports go out to the division directors discussing those staff notification drills. We have redundant communication platforms we have to check, radios, fax machines. I had to learn how to use a fax machine. I don't think I've ever used a fax machine, but I had to learn how to use a fax machine when I came here just to suffice for that. Our CRI drills, because we're part of the City Readiness Initiative regions, we're also responsible for helping our brothers and sisters out in surrounding communities. So if Mecklenburg County has a problem, they can call, and it doesn't affect Union County, they can call on me and our other preparedness coordinators from other counties to come in and assist them. In order to do that, we have to train with them and prepare with them. So we're graded on going out there and setting up shops with them. About 3 times a year we have to do that with them. I have to put staff through training, and they love this also, because it's usually that FEMA ICS training. If everybody's ever done it before, it's roughly as entertaining as watching cardboard dry. But it's a requirement from the CDC that we have to do these things, so new employees have to go through it. When you get promoted, you have to take certain extra classes and kind of go through those motions. So other required meetings and committee participations. I have to participate in monthly CRI training. We go every month to a different organization or different agency, and we train. I participate with the epidemiological team, the EPI team here, LEPC, ESF 8, Emergency Support Function 8. It's the health planning group at the state level. We participate in all of that. Healthcare coalition meetings, domestic preparedness meetings, annual training. You guys can read all that. Basically, I spend my entire life going to meetings or training and feel like I'm never here because I'm always in somebody else's county doing something. Some of the non-required program components that are unique to Union County. So a couple years ago, the Red Cross set up a meeting with myself and our emergency management director and said, listen, we're having a problem getting shelter volunteers. Volunteerism is down throughout the United States. The Red Cross is not immune from that. And they currently have 21 shelter volunteers. That's it. That's to service Union County, Mecklenburg County. Like, it's pretty rough. So they said, I hate to do this to you, but you guys basically have to figure out how to shelter on your own. In the past, Union County assisted the Red Cross with behavioral staff and public health nurses, and now we've kind of taken the lead role. So the Red Cross has promised us that within 72 hours of an event, as long as it's a localized event and not a national or a statewide event, that we can get one person in 72 hours. And hopefully that will build over time. So Andrew and I sat down with the Human Services team, and we just decided that we were going to kind of take this on our own. We put a call out to county employees, and of course, as county employees do, they responded in spades and said, we're here to help you. And we currently have about 60 on the team. We're going to be making another push because we'd like 100. And that 100 will cover 2 shelters for a period of 4 days, running 12-hour shifts. And we figure at that point, we can either get assistance from other counties, or hopefully the Red Cross can step in and give us a little bit more assistance at that time. But Union County Human Services, and in particular me who's running this, we've taken the lead. We're keeping the American Red Cross sheltering model, so when Red Cross staff does show up, it'll be a seamless transition, and we can let our staff go home and let the Red Cross staff take over. But we held our first sheltering drill last year. It was a really, I was kind of nervous. It was my first one. And I think it went really well. Monroe High School is our primary shelter location for the county. And I think we did pretty good. So we're doing another one in April, as I said, for Catawba. And we'll continue doing these on an annual basis until either the Red Cross takes over or the county decides to make me retire. We do new hire annual and new hire fit testing. So all new hires that come in that are required to wear masks, we fit test them. We don't fit test them with these masks. I just thought they were funny. But it's about 100 employees annually that we fit test in October. And it's an OSHA compliant respiratory protection program in accordance with 29 CFR 1910.134. We also offer the fit testing to local long-term and congregate care facilities, first responders, and any other business with a respiratory protection plan. So that offer is out there for them. I can either come in and fit test them or train them how to use our equipment. We utilize a port count system which measures the amount of air that passes through the N95. If anybody's ever fit tested before the old-fashioned way with the hood and the saccharin and the Bitrex, I did that for 20 years at the fire department, and every time I tasted saccharin and I went, nope, don't taste a thing, just to get it done. You can't fool this machine. It measures airflow. Like, that's it. You either hold your breath for 5 minutes, or you take the test. And I think COVID's one of the things that came out, and people started realizing that we do have a need to fit test, and we do have a need for N95 masks. So I think people take it a little bit more seriously now. But as I said, we have offered it to long-term care facilities, first responders. We do our own emergency services staff. And we handle the human services and health department staff with that respiratory protection plan. Part of our sheltering plan, and this is something where I could use some assistance from the board for you guys out in your real world jobs. During disasters, individuals with access and functional needs have come to general population shelters, and we have to be able to accommodate them. So one of the things that we've done is we have this functional and access needs registry that is a voluntary registry where anybody who's got a functional or access need can be put on this list. All it does is it tells us how we can better serve that person in a sheltering event. So if you have CPAP needs, okay, or you have some type of, you have to have power, and I know that your area is getting evacuated, I know that at Monroe Middle School, I need to put you near the wall where I can get your CPAP hooked up, or I can get your nebulizer, or whatever it might be hooked up. It's also helped us because certain people who have filled out this registry form, I've been able to talk to and say, listen, we can't accommodate you in the event of a sheltering event, and have communicated with Atrium Union, and they now know that in the event that they have to evacuate, they have to go to Atrium. Simply, they're on a, like the couple that we have, they're on a ventilator. We can't accommodate ventilators at our shelter. We don't have a medical shelter. We don't have the staff to do it. We don't have the area to do it. So they know that they have to go over to the hospital. We talk about people with service animals, and that's always a little bit of a sticky, walk that fine tightrope. But the ADA recognizes miniature horses and dogs who are trained to do a certain skill as service dogs. Unfortunately, when you try to come with your pet boa constrictor or your cat, that doesn't count as a service animal. You can still bring it to the shelter, but it's not going to be in general population. It's going to be in a crate with you. But those are opportunities for us to educate the county as to what to do in a sheltering event. I've got an intern that's been working with me since the beginning of her semester, and one of the things that she's done is she's reached out to everybody on this list to make sure that they're up to date. And we've also talked to people who have electric needs and told them that we have 4 generators, which right now are designated for people who may have lost power on a localized level, where we can bring them out to their house in the event that a tree falls on the power line outside their residence. Instead of them having to go somewhere like to the hospital, we can bring them a generator and they can operate their CPAP or whatever they have to have on a nightly basis until they get fixed up. So in Union County, there's 61.4 million non-institutionalized people that have some kind of disability. That's about 25.7% of the total population. If you take that number and factor it in roughly to 270,000 residents and non-documented residents in Union County, we should have over 600 people on this registry. We have 200. All right, we have put the information out to doctors' offices, to congregate sites, to different types of groups to try to get people to register on there. And we went from 6 when I first got hired to 200. So I think we've done really well, but we're still really short of where I think we should be. And again, it's not an opportunity to target a certain population, but it's an opportunity for us to educate them. So what are we trying to do? Maintain independence and inclusion of these affected citizens. All right, we want them to be able to evacuate their residents to a place of safety, but we don't want them to feel like they're not part of the group. Strengthen our disaster resilience. It's something for us to do to make sure that we're servicing every part of our population in the county, and then allow these individuals to receive services at the needed shelter. And again, it allows us to prepare better for them coming. So in 2005, this was the biggest wake-up call for the FAST team, and that was after Katrina. Afterwards, they estimate that about 38% of people didn't evacuate because they had a disability or caring for somebody with a disability, so they chose to stay in their flooded out houses. All right, with no air conditioning, no electricity, looters, all that kind of stuff. And that's not an environment that we're trying to push. So we really want people to feel safe to get to safety and come to one of our shelters should they have a disability or are caring for somebody with a disability. So how can you guys help? Well, we're looking for people to get on this list or get on this registry. So if you know of a Union County resident who suffers from any ailment that would make evacuation or sheltering difficult, There's a form that they can go to on the public health website under emergency preparedness, and they can get on that list. We're only gonna talk to them once a year. Once a year in December or January, we're gonna call them, make sure all their information's still up to date. They don't need to change anything, and then hopefully they won't hear from us for another year. But if their situation changes, obviously we're gonna update whatever they might have. So people with diabetes, all right, that's important for us to know. We need to know how many refrigerators we have to have, if we have to have extra syringes or whatnot, to make sure that we can deliver their medication to them. Obviously, people who are oxygen dependent, CPAP I mentioned, mobility issues, all right? Do you have a wheelchair? Are you required to use, a walker, just so we can make enough room for you in the shelter should you need to come? Cognitive or developmental impairment or delays, again, service animals, it's been a great opportunity for us to educate the public on service animals versus emotional support animals. People on dialysis, right? If you're on dialysis and you're in a shelter, I've got to work with Teresa to get you from our shelter to your dialysis appointment. So we got to work through that stuff. Obviously, transportation issues. Again, if you can't get to the shelter for some reason, I can work with Teresa to get you guys over to the shelter. All right, another one's our surveillance partner program, and I know we have a couple doctors in the room. This is another great opportunity for you guys to join one of our programs, but the surveillance partner program is an opportunity for us to reach out to you in the event that something is going on that we want you to know about. Our surveillance partners include medical professionals, animal services. Dr. Broadway's done a phenomenal job for me getting out to all the animal services providers in the county and getting us their information. Andrew Bockham over at the Ag Center is doing a great job trying to get me the farmers, the poultry, the livestock workers here in the county, getting them on that list. First responders, congregate care facilities, daycare facilities, school, and then our non-traditional partners. Non-traditional partners typically include government entities or like the Red Cross or somebody like that we can communicate with. These are some of the examples that we've sent out. Now these are all from our communicable disease team at Public Health. But these are some of the information bulletins that have been sent out. Meningococcal disease, vector-borne diseases. I know Tracy uses a lot of stuff with Gov Delivery, but this is the type of information that you're going to get from us should you be on that. All right, another program is called our Points of Dispensing. We go back and talk about that LRS, or the plan to distribute medication or supplies to 270,000 residents of Union County. If you think about it, we're required to distribute all of that stuff within 48 hours, okay? So if you take the staff that we have, the equipment that we have, it's going to take us, I think, 6 days, 5 or 6 days, if we were to do it on our own, working for 24 hours. So we rely on businesses and government organizations to be pod partners. So in the event of, and we'll use an anthrax attack, but in the event of an anthrax attack where we had to distribute doxycycline, Cipro, amoxicillin, whatever we had to distribute, these businesses come to us at our local receiving site. They receive their own cache of antidote or whatever it is, and they distribute that out to their employees and their employees' families. So as you can see, we have about just over 31,000 people that are covered by our pods right now. It's about 11% of the population, just over 11% of the population of the county. If we don't get more pods and something happened countywide and we had to distribute amoxicillin or whatever it was to everybody, we're about 2,000 people per day, or 2,000 people per hour short of where we need to be. So we really need local businesses to join up and get on this pod program. It's one of the things that I've really wanted to go out there and do, but just with all these other things, it's been kind of difficult. So if you guys know of any businesses that are interested or in Union County, we'd be more than happy to address that with them. Also, we take care of HHS safety and security, so that's part of my purview. Also, work closely with UCSO and now North State Security. We do our annual fire drills. I head up the safety committee here, and working toward to do some active assailant training. I've got to get with our new security Jeff Morgan, our new security guy, director of security, and work through that. But that's just another thing that's on my plate. One of the things that I didn't mention in there, and I'm sorry I tried to add it earlier, we also maintain a fleet of trailers. So we have 2 pod trailers, we have an animal services decon trailer, so if animals do come to the shelter, a radiological event, we host the animal decon trailer to get them all cleaned up. We have 2 sheltering trailers. We have the capability and supplies to shelter about 400 people. If you add in the cots that emergency management has and the Red Cross has, that'll go up to about 600 people that we could shelter. And then we have a utility trailer and a health incident trailer that I take with Dennis and staff out into the community and distribute things like Narcan, or we do COVID testing or flu testing or whatever they want to do. So that's pretty much it. I could talk forever about myself because that's my favorite subject. But does anyone have any questions or anything about our program? Yes, ma'am.
I have one. As far as updating your Union County list to see what people in the county have some of these ailments that could cause extra need, is it a possibility to maybe collaborate with the local hospitals and patients that come in? It'd be a question to the Union County residents if a ventilator comes in and says, you have an at-home vent system, do you know about this? Are you on this list? Do you need more information about it?
So about a year ago, it's been easier for me to get in with the doctor's offices than with the hospital itself. So I'm in with several doctor's offices, and they've provided a lot of information for us. Our biggest hiccup right now, honestly, is the people themselves, and I get it, they don't want to be seen as different, or they don't want to be targeted or singled out. And it's trying to make this approach to them that we're not trying to target you or single you out. We just want to make sure that we can take care of you should you come to our shelter. There's a lot of resistance from it at the state level, at the federal level. Jackie and I went to functional access needs training up in Cabarrus County. We've got more coming up, and honestly, it's just a way to approach that population and let them know that, listen, we're not trying to single you out. So it's not a matter of getting the information out; it's a matter of getting people on there so that they don't feel different. And I really don't want them to feel different. I just want to be able to accommodate them should they come. Good point, though.
The form is available in 3 languages?
What's that?
The form is available in 3 languages?
So currently 2. We haven't hit the mark yet for having to do Russian or Ukrainian, although we're starting to translate some stuff into Ukrainian or Russian. But right now it's English and Spanish is out there on the website. So all of this stuff, the pod information, the surveillance partner information, and the functional and access needs information, Nicole's put out on, again, it's if you look under public health on the website, and then on the left-hand side it says emergency preparedness. There's 3 tabs that are in there, and anybody can go fill that out. My email address is also on there. I've had people email and call. One of the great things that my intern, when she was calling these people, is we actually got a lot of people on the list because they're like, hey, my friend such and such, and you just go out and you just go talk to them, drive up to their house, talk to them, let them know what it's about. But all that information and those signups are all on the website. So, anything else? No.
Thank you, Jason. Some
Hey, not a
very
problem.
good information.
I'm going to watch my son. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you again. The next presentation is the Behavioral Health Collaborative update from Christina.
That's a hard act to follow. I probably should have skipped the agenda the way that it was, but he said, I have a child that has a sporting event and I will miss it. And I said, well, then we should switch. He said, I don't know if we can do that. I said, oh, I feel like we can come together and figure that out. So we were able to switch. So I'll be short and sweet. I'm Christina Neal, the program manager for the Behavioral Health Collaborative. Most of you know the collaborative started back at the end of 2018. It was basically born out of the fact that Union County has grown exponentially over the last 20 years. Our school system currently serves over 40,000 kids, and with that, back at that time we had a handful of school social workers and therapists, and we're trying to figure out, as even before COVID, the mental health needs of our young people was continuing to increase, and how do we have more support in the building for kids across our county. And so our program was born with that. I'm gonna try to get coordinated here to press all the buttons and talk in the mic. So with that, because it really takes a village, what our program is a part of student support in the schools that we serve. We are in 42 out of the 53 schools across the district, so the majority of the schools. And student support is all of the helpers in the building, so school nurse, school counselor, used to be called guidance counselor, the school resource officer, school psychologist, all of those folks. And so we're a part of that team with school social workers and behavioral health therapists is what we call them. So with that, in the first kind of full year was in 2019. We started with a total of 15 staff, including me. I come from the nonprofit world, and so started doing stats collection from the very beginning, because I know that it's important to track what we're doing. And within the first 6 months was able to see, based on the number of children that we were trying to serve with 15 folks, then requested to see if we could get more staff. And the county commissioners completely blew me away by approving for us to double our team. That doesn't happen. Teams don't grow that fast, but I think it happened because it was very evident the number of needs that we had and the number of people that we had, because today we could double again and still not have enough based on the needs that are there. And so I think it was just very significant that our county was able to see the level of need and to grow that quickly. So we did that. So now keep in mind that we started November of 2018. So we're a year in basically when COVID starts, right? So 6 months in, we've doubled our staff. So we're in the process of trying to hire all these people, and then COVID hits. So what's the cool thing about that is, and I'm gonna advance and then I'm gonna back up because you need to see this. The cool thing about that is that we hadn't, as a program, been doing the same thing for 20 years, right? We had only been doing it for about a year, and COVID hits, and so we're able to flex and bend and figure out what is the need based on this epidemic of everything that's happening and how it's impacting our community, and how do we figure it out. So we were able to jump, out of the box real quickly, because we hadn't been doing the same thing the same way for 20 years, right? Because we were still figuring it all out. So what did that mean? Our school social workers were delivering food to families to the tune of, in that 2 years, over 10,000 food deliveries that happened over that period of time, because you've got to think kids that were typically coming to school, that, the majority of their meals would happen at school are no longer at school. Kids are at home, or people are now out of a job, even once school is back in, and all of these things. And so we delivered a ton of food over the course of that time, and I think that's really important to point out what this program has done and how we flex and bend to really get outside of the box and to meet the needs of the students and families that we serve. We were also able to start providing services virtually within about 2 weeks. It took us to flip into being able to incorporate virtual services, and that's a quick turnaround based on everything that was going on during that time. So super proud of that. So let's back up. Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, most people have heard that. So when you think about in the school realm, there's a whole lot that's got to happen before we can get to the top, which would be under Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization, but students really being in a position where they can be successful academically, right? A lot's got to happen. And so from their basic needs all the way to being successful academically. And what our team does is really support kids in everything that happens before they can look at being successful in school. And so basic needs, you saw the pictures out doing food deliveries, make sure that kids have access to food. We're helping when, you know, housing is an issue. Basic needs are an issue of, you know, in all realms. Transportation, making sure that people know about transportation services that are available, like all of those things. And so getting families connected to the resources and supports that we have available in our community. And then it comes to their social and emotional needs. So with that, it's important to think about our kids that a lot of their experiences have to do with electronics and social media, right? And that really dominates the lives of our kids in 2024. And so, but through those mediums, they don't often build social skills, coping skills, problem-solving skills, or develop very high self-esteem through those processes. And a lot of times through social media and electronic means, it actually takes away from that. And so part of what our program does is really focus on helping kids build those skills. So we support children who are trying to survive based on their social and emotional circumstances to move toward thriving socially, emotionally, and academically. So some of the numbers, and these are just a few, but this captures from the time that we started through the end of February of this year. And we have hit over 100,000 services that have been provided to students and families across Union County. And that's a large number and a whole lot of work by not many people. And it's significant. In all the statistics that we track, the lowest one is suicide interventions at 663. But when you think about 663 kids that were struggling on some level with thinking about wanting to kill themselves, and that we were able to intervene with those children and provide them the safety and support in connection with the support of their families is really important. Now, the individual sessions that we provide, when you compare the numbers, and an individual session being with a therapist or a support session with a school social worker, it's only 21,351. So you can see in comparison to the over 100,000 that we do a lot of other things in supporting children and their families, aside from the individual work that we do. We've seen that. You gotta notice that cow though, right? Okay. So one of the things I talked about in that slide before last about the number of children that we've assessed suicide, and why is that important? I think it's because for a couple of different reasons. One being that the children that are most often what we've seen impacted by thoughts of wanting to kill themselves, to having thought about a plan, to even attempting, so on some level of that spectrum, it's the children that are much younger than you would think. And so the majority of the children that we have served to do a suicide assessment is between 8 and 13. So that's 4th grade to 7th grade. So elementary school, you know, the end of elementary school, kind of the beginning, middle of middle school, right? And that's one of the things that I was taken aback in starting this program, the number of children that we would assess that were struggling with thoughts of wanting to die in elementary school. Oftentimes we think of that being something that would be seen more in high school. And so it's a significant concern. This is just to give you kind of an idea of how often we're providing this intervention with assessing suicide with students. And so you can see comparatively this school year, from beginning in August to February, and then the past 2 years prior to that. This slide, I think, is really important because it allows you to see the students that are referred to us. So when you go back to thinking about that over 100,000, all of those kids don't get referred to us, because if they're in crisis, if something, is happening really fast, the time to complete a referral form and send it to us and say, this kid could really benefit from support of a school social worker or behavioral health therapist, it doesn't happen because it's a crisis, right? And so this doesn't include that. This is talking about specifically the kids where there is time to refer them, and then services are completed. And so you can see that the vast majority of the kids that are referred to us do complete services and get what they need. Of course, the last year, being this current fiscal year, we're not at the end yet, so that's where you see the comparison between the referrals and the completed as being different. So I wanted to share with you a couple of success stories. So a kid starting their freshman year, they started as a freshman, so they're not, according to their age, supposed to be a freshman, but that's where they are based on the credits and what they've completed. And really working to help them with communication and support, develop a safety plan, because this is a kid that was running either not in class, they were somewhere on campus, or they were leaving the school on a regular basis because they did not feel safe. And this student has now grown into a strong, confident person that will graduate this year. So a kid that was never at school, was not anticipated to graduate, that is now going to graduate with the support of one of our school social workers. Another student in a behavior-focused classroom in elementary school with a significant trauma history, very aggressive behaviors with teachers and peers, and aggressive to the point that it would take several staff to manage the physical aggressiveness of this student who was trying to hurt himself and others. This is a kid that was receiving therapy twice a week, which doesn't happen on a regular basis. Typically once a week is where it's at, but it was at that level. And this kid has improved to the point that it's no longer requiring physical interventions to maintain safety when that child gets upset, being able to calm down. The student will now even apologize for negative behavior where there wasn't that responsibility in the past, and then also recently gave the therapist a hug at the end of a session. And so when you go from a kid that is experienced a whole lot of trauma, is really angry and very aggressive, to the point of feeling that safe and supported, that is extending a hug to their therapist, is very significant. And so now this is a kid that helps out with school jobs and is succeeding in math. So gone from a behavior class with all the classes in mainstream math, and is actually a star student in math, and we anticipate that will spread to other subjects. A student who was considered a 9th grader, not coming to school, recovered enough credits in over a year that now this kid will actually graduate early. So basically made up like a year and a half's time in a very short period of time. And this kid plans to graduate early and then go to serve her country in the United States Marines. And that's significant from a kid that was not coming to school at all and was so far behind, was not going to graduate, and now with support is in school, is going to even graduate early, and then has a plan to go serve our country as a result of our support. Another kid with anxiety so severe that asking teacher questions in class just wasn't even possible. And now this kid has completed the FAFSA, applied for college, and has a plan to join the healthcare field. Another kid whose parent had died during the Christmas break unexpectedly was able to join a grief group that was already in process with some other kids that had experienced significant loss. That's a child that, you know, got support early on. It happened before the funeral even happened. This child then started learning about, you know, just the stages of grief, like normalize what she was going through. And she talks about, you know, the help that it was in that grieving process. And so, like, almost preventative in some respects, because it was, you know, that process equipped that child with the information of really understanding, you know, what you're experiencing, you know, in the grieving process, and to have that support, and to realize that she wasn't alone, because she started out in a group of her peers that had experienced significant loss. And so how impactful that is, how, you know, oftentimes we as people feel so alone when something horrible happens. And the sooner that we can get connected and not feeling alone, and understanding that the same, you know, tragedies have happened to other people, is really powerful. So that opportunity for this kid is great. That's what I got. Do you all have any questions for me?
Well, thank you, Jackie. I was going to ask you just a question. Do you find is there a correlation with some of the higher need schools, such as like Monroe Middle, Monroe High, and Forest Hills, as far as the interventions that are required or requested from you guys?
That's a great question. I'll give you an example that hit me several years ago with this program, and talking with people that would apply for services, apply for positions in our program. And that is that a child on the east side of the county who is in a single parent home, whose, you know, parent works 3 jobs and is never home, and what that child is lacking around support, and what their needs are, and how that presents, is oftentimes very similar to that child who is living on the western side of the county, and whose parents maybe aren't home much because they're traveling in Europe, right? And so a lot of times we see, you know, when it comes to their basic needs, it's different, you know, when there's financial security and when there's not. But that middle part of where they're at socially and emotionally, and their mental health, often is very, very similar across the board. And so, yeah, it's been interesting in building this program, and to see, because I think it's easy to assume that when there's access to finances, that you wouldn't have those needs, but it's really hard being a kid in 2024. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
Of course. I had requested this presentation. I talk loud. Because I hear really wonderful things about your program, and it's really clear. It was great to hear the testimonies, you know, and hear the examples and stuff. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
The staffing, I think that shows a testament also of how rapidly you were able to grow, you know, and get to that staffing level, and that the commissioners were supportive of that. What is the staffing now versus 2020? Like, has it stayed the same, or?
Yes, we've not grown since then.
Okay. And then part of why I wanted to see where y'all were on things was to see what things were looking like this year with regard to access, and if there were any changes. And so some things are clear and some I had questions on, but like,
Sure.
On your threat assessments, that was with regard to suicide, right? That's the SIP, or were those threat assessments in general within the county?
So a SIP is a suicide intervention protocol. That's the specific protocol used by UCPS to assess suicide. A threat is a threat of violence against others.
Right.
So those are 2 separate things. But I can tell you that when you look at those numbers, when it comes to SIPs compared to threat assessments, SIPs is probably 95% of that compared to the threat assessment.
But that is both. Okay, yeah, that was one question I had. Then when I looked at the you said this was through February 2024, right? So the 23 is the 23-24 school year?
Yes.
Right. All right. And so it was pretty impressive, the increase that y'all have had year-to-date on the individual services and the student services from this year to last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you figure we're, what, 6 of 9 months in?
Right.
And you've seen such great improvement. But then the suicide interventions are down. Are you seeing that to be a positive thing, or does that have to do with the difference that we see in the access numbers?
Gotcha. So with that, the difference is now we have to look at getting parent permission before so in years past, you would have a kid that would disclose some level of concern. We would do an assessment with them and then contact the parent and let them know the results of the assessment. So that it's like, well, this was said, we've talked with your child, we figured out that it was actually about something else, or actually not only are they thinking about it, but they've thought about how they would do it, or they've thought about specifically when they would do it, like how, what is the level of risk associated with what's been. So you have information to explain to the parent about the gravity of what's been disclosed. Now with changes with the Parents' Bill of Rights, and looking at how do you balance that with trying to, acknowledge and make sure that parents are involved in the process. How that has changed is that we reach out to parents first. And so you have to reach out to parents first and get their permission on the front end. And so if a parent, is working a job where they can't receive phone calls, if they're not allowed to have their phone, on at work, if for them their understanding is that, well, anytime, it's something I've heard my child say before, they've said it, when they're not getting their way about something, like that kind of thing. And so that, that particular parent may not be seeing it as, at the level that we would see it as mental health professionals, in that, somebody could have said it many times before, but we don't know at what point that it's going to be a concern.
So within that, I guess that's where really my question lies, because I knew that was what it was, but if there is a serious concern, like whatever brought it to your attention, you still have to obtain the consent before you even check on anything with it?
Right.
Is that where we see the big difference? If you look at the previous years on the access to services, you have a pretty similar number between your referral and your actually completion, right, of services. And there's a pretty significant, not only is there a decrease in referrals, there's a decrease in services as well. Is that because they're not responsive to participating in your program, or what are y'all facing there?
Those are kind of separate and different, because the need for a suicide intervention protocol is a crisis. And so like I mentioned before, we're not going to get a referral. We're not going to stop to complete a form and a referral, and it's not going to be tracked on that basis.
Okay.
So I don't think that's what
So
you're
it's two
seeing
separate.
there. I think that's just because of being in the middle of the school year, and by the time we get to the end, what you'll see. But yeah, so those are kind of separate and different.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is good that they're separate. I mean, but it feels like we're 2/3 of the way into the school year, so there's still a significant decrease.
Mm-hmm.
That was alarming, there, if that's impacting access. So that's were really my big questions. Like, Yeah, I think you covered them all. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Being no other questions, thank you so much, Christina, for this
Absolutely,
nice
thank
report.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, Janet, will there be any division report?
Yes, sir, and before we move to the division reports and public comment, because we do have a speaker here tonight, we have one other item that is the approval of requested public health clinical service fee that Dennis would speak to.
Yeah, this is a new combo vaccine called MMR Quad or Pro Quad. This adds varicella to this particular vaccine. It's new to us. Obviously, we've been doing MMRs for a long time, as well as varicella. This particular vaccine is the preferred vaccine for 48 months to 12 years. One of the good things about it is it actually reduces the number of shots for kids. If there is a need for doing them separately, if it's medically indicated by the provider and the parents want to do that we can still do that. But this particular vaccine is new to us, and we're requesting that this fee be approved so that we can add it to our fee structure. Obviously, after it goes to the commissioners for final approval.
Dennis, I have a question. By the time that this comes to us for any kind of pass, I guess it's more on a price thing, is there any data that goes along to show these vaccines mixed together?
There would be the vaccine information sheets that are provided for all vaccines as part of the
like the
children's
data's already
vaccination
there
program.
showing that any interactions or side effects or mixing these two together, anything that possibly?
It has been, there has been it's been approved for, and as I said, preferred for 4 years and up. Below that, there has been concerns, primarily based on if someone has febrile seizure activity or history of that, it's not recommended. That's why, as part of the initial assessment process, that is ascertained and would not be given at that time. That's the one thing that I'm aware of that has been identified as a concern. That changes at, I think, 1 year. That the data indicates that there is not an increased risk for that, but that's the one area that's looked at specifically regarding that.
And where can someone find that? Like if you were to mention this to a parent and say, oh, we have a new vaccine that saves you injections and we want you, or they're mixed now, here you can read up on it or see the data.
Well, we can provide that information, and we do provide that, yeah.
Doctor's offices have it too?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So do we have a motion on the floor for this approval?
A motion to approve.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, it's approved.
Recommended.
Recommend.
Yeah, recommended.
Thank you, Dennis.
I have one other item, if you don't mind. It's not actually on the agenda, but as a place to update, it'll be very quick. As some of you know, we have a child fatality prevention and community child protection team that is required by statute in North Carolina in every county. We're going to be providing an overview of that at the next meeting, and also providing the the most recent reports for that information, for those, that team. But in the meantime, I want to make you aware, we have a need for a new representative on the Human Services, from the Human Services Board for that particular team. Missy Baker had been serving in that capacity, and now she's off. So I wanted to just make y'all aware to be thinking about that if you might be interested in serving on that particular team. It meets quarterly, Tuesdays. In fact, we meet tomorrow. But just keep that in mind, and next month we'll be presenting more about that particular team.
You want to go ahead and do these and then have the public comment?
Sure. I just have one thing, to tag on to Jason's presentation earlier. He mentioned closed pods. The closed pods he talked about were for businesses, but it doesn't have to be a business. If it's a large school, a faith community, anything that's of significant size that's interested in being a pod, we would certainly welcome that, because it does reduce the number that would go through public pods. So keep that in mind. Thanks.
So Michelle Marcano was not able to join us this evening. She had a transportation issue with her child, but did want me to let you know that they have been able to participate in a cool one-of-a-kind case with a Gold Star spouse, which is a spouse of a military member who was killed in action. This couple had moved to Union County from Ohio, and they got married prior to the gentleman leaving for Vietnam, and he passed away in service. And she was granted monetary spouse benefits, but someone entered her into the defense eligibility enrollment system incorrectly, and she was unable to receive her Gold Star benefits. And so Michelle and her team have been working with this spouse also to receive those Gold Star benefits, but then also correct the errors within the DEAR system so that it won't impact any future benefits for her, and get her put on the correct health insurance, because that issue had caused her, with the incorrect information being in the system, had caused her issues with her health insurance eligibility. And so the spouse has said that that has changed her life, and it's a feel good. And so, you know, it's nice when lots of the times the work that we get to do, Christina, I appreciated sharing some of your success and feel-good stories from that perspective. But a lot of times we don't get to hear those positive stories, and so it's nice when you know that the work that you're doing makes a difference in the lives of an individual. So I just wanted to share that on her behalf, and I think Stephanie doesn't have anything for CSO tonight, so, and Teresa also does not have anything for transportation. So, to our public comments.
Thank you, Michelle's staff. I really appreciate them. I can testify for what they've done for me, so I really appreciate them. Okay. Comment? Anyone?
Public comment.
Oh, okay, I thought you had a comment. Okay, now we're ready for the public comment, and we have Mr. Harold Smecker. Hope I didn't mess up your name.
Close enough. It's a highly kept secret.
Yes, and I have to just read you a few things, Mr. Smecker. You're probably used to these, but you know you have 3 minutes to speak and talk about your topic here. So we just want to make sure that you realize that.
I listened to. Oh, this is
Turn the switch. There's a switch at the top. There you go.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I'll talk louder then, I guess, if it's not clear. I listened to the meeting last month. I think there's some information that I wanted to share. First, the health department, or the health board, was notified back in September. This issue actually started before that. But in the September 15th BOCC meeting, Mr. Joyner spoke as a representative of this health board about fluoride. So there was a specific fluoride topic in September that this was originally, that was the first topic that came up at the board. So I just want to make sure you guys knew that. And second, you know, in all the discussions on this, not a single advocate for fluoride ever mentioned or acknowledged that we don't put medical grade fluoride into the water. We put hydrofossilic acid in the water. Not a single dentist, not a single advocate, no one. I'm really not sure that dentists even know what goes into the public water supply. At another place that I spoke, dentists that had spoken Crowford had to come to ask me how to spell it, so he could look it up. It's a very important point in differentiation because it includes arsenic and lead in it, and it's untreated waste from the phosphate fertilizer industry. So that seems like something that should be discussed by this board. In the lawsuit that's going on for the last 6 years has opened up a wealth of information about fluoride and its effects. In 2006, this NRC, National Research Council, documented the changes seen in the brain in controlled laboratory experiments in animals that flagged the neurotoxicity of fluoride as an endpoint of concern that needed much more attention. Follow-on studies have found elevated fluoride exposure to early life leads to permanent decline in cognitive function. The CDC was asked under oath in the lawsuit if the CDC accepts the findings of the NRC study. The answer was yes. In 2012, NIH funded birth cohort studies to understand the effect of low levels of fluoride ingested by pregnant women and how that exposure led to lower IQ and ADHD in their children. These studies showed a significant association between fluoride and lower IQ and ADHD. The subject matter expert on fluoride at the EPA, Dr. Joyce Donahue, admitted under oath after looking at the cohort studies in 2017 that it warrants a reevaluation of water fluoridation policy. She added on her own, everywhere. This needs to be looked at everywhere. So that's the top expert on fluoride in our government. So there's a policy-making part of the CDC, and then there's the science. They don't agree. The National Toxicology Program, the top government entity on toxicology, released a report that showed association between higher fluoride exposure and lower children's IQ are consistent in the vast majority of studies of both low and high quality. Several of the highest quality studies showing lower IQ in children were done in optimally fluoridated 0.7 milligrams per liter areas. 72 studies were reviewed, 19 were deemed high quality studies. 18 of the 19 of those showed the correlation of fluoride exposure and lower IQ. When NSF...
Go, you finish that.
Okay. When the NSF was asked under oath if they did any testing to show the limits of where that fluoride exposure would affect impact brain pressure, they said no. They've done no testing at all on it. Matter of fact, there is not a single randomized clinical trial ever done to determine the effectiveness or safety of fluoride added to the water. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spector. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second on motion.
We got a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you so much.